Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Hampstead Garden Suburbs Siyum Tanach. This is not just a Siyum where, one person has sat down and learned a Masechta or a tractate of Mishnah. This is the entire community who have got together and shared the entire Tanakh with everybody. And so you're not going to hear too much from me tonight. We're going to go straight to hear from one of our members who participated in this program. We'll be hearing from many of them. And we're going to start with the video from Stephanie Nagus.
I think it's quite something that we have between us managed to read the entire Tanakh, and I'm really proud to have been part of this initiative. Also, I'd just like to say how much it means to me in this project to feel part of my precious community in these difficult times.
Hello everyone, good to be with you, and how wonderful to be able to celebrate such a fabulous milestone. Kol hakavod to Rabbi Friedman for being the instigator and the innovator of this project. To have learnt the whole Tanakh, amazing achievement. Well done to you, Rabbi Friedman. It's a huge, huge achievement. And this song is in your honor. We say this every day, every Mariv, Ki heim chayenu v'orech yomeinu. Talking about our beautiful Torah or mitzvot. This is our life because Torah and mitzvot are alive, and this is what keeps us going. V'orech yameinu, this lengthens our days. Uvahem nehege yomam v'loila, and we toil in it day and night. Ki heim chayenu. Ki heim chayenu v'orech yameinu uvahem nehege yomam v'loila. Ki heim chayenu v'orech yameinu uvahem nehege yomam v'loila. Ki heim chayenu v'orech yameinu v'hem nehege yomam v'loila. Ki heim chayenu v'orech yameinu v'hem nehege yomam v'loila. Ay, 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 ay,
Thank you, Chazan Avrami. What a beautiful tribute. This is a real honor to be part of this initiative this evening. Tonight is a celebration of the completion of the Torah, the prophets, and the writings. I want to begin by recalling that the Hebrew prophets were famous for speaking truth to power and calling out the injustices of the day. If they were alive today, they would be vociferously condemning the brutal murder of George Floyd. Let us take a moment to reflect on the tragedy. And let us give thanks to Hashem for the blessings of security that we have in our lives. So many in this world are not as fortunate. It is because of our peace and tranquility that we are able to devote ourselves to spiritual pursuits, such as the study of Tanakh that we are celebrating tonight. Despite all the tragedy and despair in the world right now, tonight we are celebrating, and it must be a joyous time. We have so much reason to be joyous because everything, all the answers that we need in our lives, everything is found in the Tanakh, in the Bible. Let me share with you one story. Husband and wife were bickering over, each one wanted to stay in bed just a little bit longer. But, you want the moment that you get out of bed, there to be fresh coffee ready to go. And each one is telling the other one, no, it's your job to prepare the coffee. No, it's your job to prepare the coffee. And finally, they said, okay, let's turn to the answer for all life is the Bible, the Tanakh. We'll open up the Tanakh and see what the Tanakh has to say for us. Sure enough, they open up the Tanakh. It's Parshat Bo, and what do they see? Hebrews. There they have their answer. Friends, one of the stories, one of the turning points of my life in terms of reading the Bible happened when I was sitting on an aeroplane once. I've shared this story in the past, but it's an important story. 2 Christian girls are sitting behind me, and they're talking about the Bible. One of them says to the other, have you read the Bible? They had brought their Bibles along with them for the airplane journey. And she said, yes, I've read the Bible a couple of times. This is my 3rd time. She says, wow, that's amazing. I'm only halfway through my 1st time. And I was sitting there. I didn't even turn around, just listening to these 2 young women. I said to myself, wow, these Christian girls have read their Bible once, twice, 3 times. Where are we up to in terms of our own? It's our own sacred text. And do we read our Bibles? We need to read our Bibles. The problem with us, of course, as Jews, is we're not satisfied to simply read. We have questions. Every verse that we read, we think, well, what did it mean? What does Rashi say? What does Metzudas David say? What does Metzudas Sion say? And so it takes a little longer for us to read it. But it shouldn't, at least not the first time. The first time or the second time through, simply read it. Read it and become familiar with the text. You won't necessarily understand everything the first time round, but there's always a second time and a third time. The more we read, the more we will understand. I want to talk about Harry Potter for a moment. Harry Potter is in the news because just in the past couple of months, Harry Potter was translated into Yiddish. The reason I mention Harry Potter is because Harry Potter happens to be the 2nd bestseller of all time. Harry Potter has sold 500 million copies or thereabouts. What's the all-time bestseller? You all know the answer to that. The Bible. Official statistics say that over 5 billion copies of the Bible have been sold. But we all know it's much more than that. That's just recorded statistics. But over time, it would be many, many billions. Now, here's the thing. The Bible was translated into Yiddish centuries ago. And while Harry Potter has only reached some 80 languages of translation, Moshe Rabbeinu, already translated the Bible into 70 languages. So any subsequent languages are already dozens more, all the way to Yiddish and all the way to modern languages of the 21st century. Yes, the Bible is the most translated work for all time. Why? Because God wants us to understand it. It's okay to read the Bible in any language that we understand. And if that means that we're reading through in the English, before we had this celebration, people asked, what does it mean if I'm taking on this project? And I said, it means whatever you want it to mean. Some of us will want to go into depth. Others of us will want to simply read. And this is what I'm encouraging you this evening. Remember, we have just reached Shavuot. Shavuot, we celebrate that we received the Torah. We didn't graduate. We counted 49 days, and then we received the Torah, which is just the beginning. Now we are all familiar with the Bible, with the Torah, with the Tanakh. Now's the time that we can begin studying ourselves on a daily basis. One recent project that many of us have taken on is the 929 project. The president of the project here in the UK is a beloved member of ours, Romy Tager QC, And so it's very close to us here at HGSS, our rededication to the Bible, to the Tanakh. Tonight, believe it or not, is actually the last night of Shavuot. Why? Because just like Pesach and Sukkot had a week of sacrifices, Shavuot, if you weren't able to get into the temple on day one, you could bring your Shavuot sacrifice for the entire week, which takes us all the way until now. And tonight, as the culmination of Shavuot, this is why we are completing the Tanakh tonight. I want to wish Mazel Tov to everyone who has taken part, Yasher Koach, on this fabulous initiative. And may you go, Mechael El Chayel, from strength to strength, with greater learning, greater spirituality, and always seeking to know more and more of our heritage. Mazel Tov and Yasher Koach.
My learning was about the Jews in the wilderness in Bamidbar, who were stricken by a plague. It was a terrible plague. 24,000 Jews died, a very significant percentage of the Bnei Israel. The Torah says, Vayihi acharei hamagefa, and it was after the plague. The sentence suddenly stops, not at a full stop, but in the middle. For the Bale Kriya et Nachta. And uniquely, the sentence does not continue until after a Ptucha. A Ptucha is where the whole of the remaining part of the line is left blank and the text resumes on the next line. Its purpose is to create a break, to give time for contemplation between one section of the Torah and another. Rashi says that its intention is to connect with the next section, which is that there was a census after the plague, like a shepherd who counts his sheep after an attack by a herd of wolves. But that might explain a stuma, a small gap within the same line. But why a petucha, a total break, and in the middle of a sentence? Sitting away from the annual highlight of communal learning at Norris Lee through the night on Shavuot, isolated from the community, I became quite gloomy. That is why, even better than learning at night, is sleeping, a good night's sleep. When the plague had had such a devastating effect, there was a total blank. There was nothing to say. The world would not be the same again because of the loss of the dead and because of the impact on the living. So it felt after such terrible weeks for the world, for the nation, and close to home for so many in our Jewish community over the last 3 months. Nothing will be quite the same again, but these thoughts are not all terrible. As the isolation will, we pray, soon come to an end, as we count afresh, we cease to take everything for granted. We take in a fresh breath. Hamachadesh betuvo b'chol yom tamid ma'asev bereshit. In his goodness, renews the creation every single day. We appreciate one another even more, and above all, the blessing of life.
So this song is dedicated to all the participants of the Siyum, those who dedicated themselves to take on a part of Tanakh. Kol hakavod to you, Mazel Tov to you. Everyone is a part of this wonderful Siyum. And so, Hine matov u'manaim sheves achim gam yachad. How beautiful and how sweet it is to have brothers and sisters, Am Yisrael, joining together and sitting together and learning Torah. So this is dedicated to you. Mazel Tov to all the participants. Hinei matov u'manaim shevet achim gam yachad. Hinei matov u'manaim shevet achim gam yachad. אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה 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 מה טוב, na 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 na, hine 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 מה טוב, ya na 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 na, hine מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
What with COVID-19, lockdown and Brexit, I thought I'd cheer myself up by reading Kohelet. Kohelet isn't uniformly pessimistic. I mean, okay, it stresses the temporality and superficiality of life and basically advises to savor the moment. Everything is transient, but the main message, of course, is that life is meaningless unless one lives in the fear of God and enjoying life by keeping the mitzvot, as it says at the end of Kohelet, Et ha'elokim yirav et mitzvosov shomar kedei kol ha'adam. But I don't think this message is essentially a Jewish one. Some of the basic tenets of Judaism, such as Techiyat HaMeitim, reward and punishment, neshama, are not mentioned in Kohelet. So the only thing that is really Jewish about Kohelet is so neurotic. So it hasn't really helped me that much, but so I guess I'll just stick to lockdown.
Thank you, Alan and Clive and Stephanie. So good to hear from participants who took part in this amazing initiative. And thank you again to the Rabbi and Rabbinate Friedman for initiating this whole program, and to Avromi for inspiring us this evening. And it now gives me great pleasure to actually be Messiah, to conclude the entire Tanakh on behalf of the entire community. And who better, don't answer this by the way, who better to do this than our new chair? Ladies and gentlemen, I give you James Kaufman.
Hello. Hello, Rabbi Guten Tag. Hello, Rabbi Guten Tag. Hello, everybody. Lovely to be here and lovely to have such an incredible communal event and communal achievement. First of all, a few thank yous and shkach to Rabbi and Rabbinate Friedman, Rabbi and Rebbetzin Guten Tag, Chazan Avromi and Rochela Freilich, and also to Dovi on the piano for all your efforts tonight and also in arranging this magnificent Siyum Tanach. Thank you also to Edward, who is behind the scenes acting as producer on this most magnificent live presentation. I feel like at some point I should say 12 points, but maybe not. It sounded funny when it was in my head. For everything that you've done both tonight and also for all the other presentations, and whilst I'm giving thanks and I'm having an opportunity to say thank you to people, I very, very much like to say thank you to the office team and everyone that keeping the home fires burning and making sure that our shul and our community continues to function during these tough times. Also, huge shkach, mazel tov, thank you to everybody that has learned and participated in this most incredible achievement. And thank you also to those who have facilitated that learning. And in particular, thinking about my own learning, I'd like to thank my parents, not least because I'm watching the live messages going up, and I can see my mother's talking about Kohelet being her favorite book. But thank you, because without the education and without the groundwork that you laid for me, I wouldn't have been able to carry out the learning. And also thank you to Karina and to my girls for giving me those moments of peace and quiet over Shavuot in particular, when I was able to learn. If we achieve anything, if we see further, it is purely because we are standing on the shoulders of giants. Also, whilst we're at it, a message came into me earlier today, and I'd like to share it with you because it comes from our friends Rabbi and Esther Livingston, and they also wish shkach. Esther, I believe, was involved in some of the learning, and she says it's been a very special to have been part of this momentous initiative. Shows the power of community and of unity, achdus, as together such an achievement is possible. Getting more connected to and engaging with the wise and holy words of our Torah and of our prophets is always stimulating, enlightening, and uplifting. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. A beautiful initiative, and may it serve La Hagdil Torah or La Adira, to elevate the Torah and make it more precious in all of our eyes. Yishar Koach to Rav and Rebbetzin for organizing this, and to all the participants of all ages, from Rabbi and Esther Livingston. So lovely to have that message of continuity as well. So now I'm going to be Messiah the Tanakh. I learnt the second book of Divrei Hayamim, of Chronicles. It is essentially concerned with it starts with Shlomo HaMelech becoming king and building the first temple. It then deals with the fall of the future kings, that some were good, some were bad, and in many ways repeats what is said in the book of Kings. And finally, as we come towards the end, the kingdom of Israel has been overrun, and the kingdom of Judah is finally overrun. And we're going to pick it up for those of you that are following. Divrei Hayamim Bet, 2 Chronicles, chapter 36, verse 20. And so Nebuchadnezzar has broken in, he's destroyed the temple, and there's been carnage on the streets of Jerusalem. And it says, Vayegel ha-she'irit min ha-cherev el Bavel, and those who had escaped from the sword, he, Nebuchadnezzar, carried away to Bavel. Vayulo ulavanav la'avadim ad meloch malchut paras, and they were as slaves to him, to Nebuchadnezzar, and to his sons, until the reign of the kingdom of Paras, of Persia. And as we know, towards the end of book of Daniel, Babylon is overrun by Persia. L'ma'alot dvar Adonai. And why did this happen? We're told L'ma'alot dvar Adonai b'fi Yirmiyahu. And this is to fulfill the words of God that was in the mouth of Jeremiah. Ad ratzta ha'aretz et shaptoteha. That the land should be able to be made good, and to have her Shabbatot, the rest of the land. Kol yemei hoshama Shabbata lamalot shivim shana, and she lay desolate and kept her Shabbatot, the land of Israel, for 70 years, the famous 70 years. Uvishnat achat lechoresh melech Paras, and in the first year of the reign of King Koresh, Cyrus of Persia, lichlot dvar Adonai b'fi Yirmiyahu, so that he may be able to be the instrument that fulfills the words of God that was spoken by Jeremiah. Heir Adonai et ruach Koresh melech Paras. God stirred up within King Cyrus a feeling via Verkol, and he made a proclamation b'chol malchuto, across all of his kingdom. And he also put it in writing. Ko amar Koresh melech Paras. So says Cyrus, the king of Persia. Kol mamlachot haaretz natan li Adonai Elohei hashamayim. God of the heavens, God has given me all the lands of the world, of the earth. V'hu pakad alai, and he has charged me. And it's a very powerful word. This pakad. Bale Kore in particular will recognize it. Live not that he's charged me to do what? Live not lo bait Berushalayim asher b'Yehuda, that I should build for him a house in Jerusalem. And in case you were wondering where Jerusalem is, it's in Yehuda. It's in the kingdom of Judah, and the whole of Divrei Hayamim has been talking about the story of the kingdom of Judah. Mi vachem mikol amo Adonai Elohav imo vayal. And we finish with, whoever is among you of all of his people, the Lord his God be with him, and let him go up. You should now go up to the land of Israel and to the land of Judah and be there at the rebuilding of the temple. And this is how Divrei Hayamim finishes. And with this, we are Messiah the Tanakh. And there's a beautiful degree of circularity to this, because, of course, the last psukim of Divrei Hayamim are not just the last psukim of Divrei Hayamim, they are the first psukim of the book of Ezra, which has come previously in the Tanakh and that other participants have learnt. And there's a beautiful idea, I think, in all of this, the same way that on Simchat Torah, we finish the Torah and we start again. So here, we know we haven't ever really finished the Tanakh, because it's just taking us back to an earlier section that we now have to learn. And with that, I wish you all well. Shkach to all the participants, mazel tovs all round, and thank you for taking part. And until we can repeat this physically and have proper siyum with one another, I hope that this suffices in some way.
Well, Yasher Koach, Mazel Tov. James, that was wonderful. I mean, you ended that piece of Tanakh, and they will go up to build the temple. So thank you for stepping up to build our temple, and Mazel Tov on the new chairmanship. We have, today's a Siyum, and we have some people who have said that they really want to Siyum, the him being you, James, and
it sounded better in his head as well.
So I would like to invite some others into the program right now. Others who would like to wish you Mazel Tov and say a few words to you.
It's your Schwieger, James.
Oh, wait.
Ah!
Oh,
Surprise!
it's my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. Oh, what more could a boy ask for to see his mother-in-law and father-in-law?
Well, we want to say Kol HaKavod and Ishkach. You followed the family tradition of leadership in the Jewish community. Your father, Aubrey, our beloved Mechutin, was a warden, financial representative, and a macher in our shul, and remains a macher. Your grandfather, Isaac, founded St. John's Wood Synagogue. And on the distaff and most important side, your mother, Flo, our beloved Machatenister, was treasurer of the Board of Deputies and a vice president of the Board of Deputies, quite aside from her communal contributions in the wider world. And at home you show leadership. You're an example for all of us. You teach your children, as the Shema said, V'shinantam levonecha, and v'limadatam otam et b'neichem. You teach your children to love God. Every Sunday, you teach them, all four beloved granddaughters of ours. You teach them about Yiddishkeit, about the Tanakh, and about loving God. And even outdoors, in clusters every morning, when we're out skiing and you haven't broken your leg, on the terrace, fully kitted out in tefillin and talit, you announce to the world that you love God by your prayers. James, I watched you grow up, a gorgeous little boy downstairs with abundant locks of blonde hair. I had two ambitions for you then: to marry my daughter, Karina, tick, and produce blonde-haired children. Well, they're not really blonde, although perhaps Isla's red hair will suffice at present. And finally, The other ambition I had for you was to become chairman of our shul. Mazel tov. The community is fortunate to have you as its lay leader. Alex and I wish you well and look forward to basking in your reflected glory of your achievements. Fantastic. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you, Vicky. Reflected glory. I thought you were referring to the baldness. Thank you very much for those lovely words. It has been pointed out to me, and those people following on Facebook will know as well, that there was, of course, one person that two people that I hadn't thanked, and I failed to thank my brother and my sister-in-law, and so Aviva, Andy, Aviva, thank you very much, and Aviva, as the old joke goes, for my sister-in-law Aviva, who thought I would forget to mention her, hello, Aviva.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yashikov, James. We had some technical difficulties. Mom and Dad were in the studio. They're not in the studio right now. Maybe if they can come back later in the program, would love to see them. But meanwhile, let us move on.
My mother.
Program. Sorry?
My mother.
Well, not my mother.
Yes, your mother. Although she was very active in the comments. But we'll have to get her back into the studio. But she was here for a surprise as well.
Okay, thank you. I'll look forward to hearing from her again.
Okay.
We say this every morning in davening just before the Shema. Avinu av harachamon, Father of mercy, hamarachim aleinu v'seim v'libeinu lahavinu lahaskil, who puts into our heart the ability to comprehend and understand and to grasp the Torah, lishmoya lilmoid lelamed, to listen and to learn and to teach. And he enlightens our eyes. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah, a beautiful song that is very often sung at Siyumim and completion of Talmud tractates and all various Siyumim. Here it is, Avinu av harachamon. Avinu av harachamon, hamerachem, rachem aleinu, v'sein b'libeinu binah, lehavinu lehaskil, lishmoa, lilmod ulelamed, lishmor v'lasos, ulekayem eskol divrei, Salmud Torasecha be'ava, v'horer heineinu b'sorosecha, v'dabei klimeinu b'mitzvosecha, v'yachid levaveinu leyahava, ulekayem eskol divrei, Salmud Torasecha be'avam, v'horeineinu b'sorosecha, v'dabei klimeinu b'mitzvosecha, v'yached levaveinu leyahava, leyahava uleyira, uleyira et shemecha.
Thank you, Rabbi Friedman. I chose the Book of Ezra for no particular reason, except that I've been learning Kiddushin, and there are strong connections. While I enjoyed rereading Ezra, I decided to reread The Last Days in Babylon by Marina Benjamin as a parallel history, and I'm afraid I enjoyed that a bit more. In Ezra, in brief, Cyrus lets the Jews return to Israel to rebuild the temple. The Jews refuse help from the Samaritans, who decide to obstruct, and Darius then confirms consent, and the work continues. When he leaves Babylon, Ezra takes with him all those Jews of uncertain ancestry in order to keep an eye on who marries who and maintain and ensure priestly purity. My cynical view was that perhaps the Jews didn't really want to leave the comfort of Babylon, and the ones who Ezra could persuade to leave were those on the edge of society, the ones of uncertain ancestry, who might very much welcome the chance to build a new life with him in Israel. So it made me think, and it was interesting. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Mazel tov to everybody. You know, most of us are familiar with the 5 books of the Torah. We read it over and over again in shul, week in and week out. We are also familiar with Psalms, the Tehillim, as a space for prayer and meditation, and perhaps a few other Bible stories. However, there are 24 books. There are 929 chapters in the Tanakh. Most are all about our history, how we became a nation, how we traveled to get to the promised land, and then our life with kings and prophets, good and bad. Every story that is written there is there for a reason, to teach us a lesson, our guide to our life. When we launched the Tanakh Initiative, I took the opportunity to learn with my daughter, Jemiana, as part of her preparation of her year for her bar mitzvah. Her Hebrew name is Yemima Chana. So I thought, let's learn the portion where it discusses her name, Yemima. Yemima was one of Job's daughter. Reading the story of Job was quite sad. Here was an individual who was blessed with everything, and then one day received a 10-car pileup, losing his business, his children, and eventually his health. He goes through all the steps of loss, anger, depression, questioning. Throughout it all, he doesn't lose faith in Hashem. While the story of Iyov is very sad and depressing, it brings us to reality that bad things do happen to good people. And we don't know why. But we do know that it's okay to have those feelings. In the end, Hashem blesses him with double of what he had before, including children. And one of his daughters' name is named Yemima, because her beauty resembled the brightness of young day. One of the things that's important to me as a mother of 5 daughters is that we always impress upon them that they're not able to do less than the boys for their bat mitzvah. Boys are pretty much restricted to laning the Sedra of the week. Girls have the entire Torah wide open to them. We've always encouraged our own daughters and other bat mitzvah girls to take on a book of Tanakh to learn and to complete it in honor of their big day. Traditionally, women have been more well-versed in Tanakh than men. And so when we embarked on this initiative, for me, it was a wake-up call that we have 6 months left to Yemima's bat mitzvah. I know that things are tough for bar and bat mitzvah families at the moment, with all the uncertainty of planning a simcha. For many people, it's led to a little inertia, but it shouldn't. Here's the thing. Since you can finish a book of Tanakh any week of the year, it's actually easier at the moment to learn for your bat mitzvah than the bars. If anyone would like any guidance about a Tanakh study plan, please be in touch with me. Let me take this opportunity to wish a hearty mazel tov to the Norrisley family on this awesome occasion. And as the Tanakh's first character, Joshua, is told, Chazak v'amatz, go strong and mighty.
Thank you, Rabbi Nate, and thank you, Ben Tobin, for your lovely message. When I was up north in Lancashire, I was on the Faith Forum, I always got very embarrassed when the vicars and the imams were quoting the prophets and the Nevi'im and the Kesuvim left, right, and centre, and I was like, I should really know that, you know. So I'm catching up now, and I'm inspired by so many people who have taken on this initiative, and Malky will be thanking everyone who took part in this very shortly. So the importance of learning Tanakh can't be underestimated, as we're about to hear now from another participant, Martin Kay.
My 1-minute message is that I'm always saddened, we, and in particular our children, are not familiar enough with the stories in Nach. Take Nevi'im, the prophets, full of wonderful, dare I suggest, bedtime stories, of which many of us have only a very vague recollection. The call of Samuel, the riddle of Samson, and the fall of Saul. And as for the language, well, most of us are familiar with Martin Luther King's epic I Have a Dream speech. That's straight out of Nevi'im, from Isaiah and Amos. And if it's good enough to stir the hearts and minds of millions of people throughout the world, then it's surely worthy of us studying its sources with our children. Whilst we hear on a yearly cycle the weekly Sidrot, we give no more than a cursory glance at the wealth of literature and moral teachings, not to mention the history of our people, to be found in the Haftorahs taken from Nevi'im. Not to forget the Megillot from Ketuvim that we read each Yom Tov. It is said that the average life of a Sunday Times best-selling book is 4.5 years. Our Bible surely deserves more than that.
Hi everyone, and well done. What a beautiful, beautiful achievement. I'd like to talk a little bit about the love and excitement required for Torah learning and how special it is and how different it is to every other book. It's infinite, it's divine, there's a freshness to it. The more you look at it, the more you study, the more you realize the different ideas that there are. And we never ever finish. Unlike any other subject that anyone will learn, it gets to a point where they've done it. Any medical doctor will say you become a consultant, you become a professor, you're done. Whereas with Torah learning, a Torah scholar will continue to learn and to learn and to thrive and to see more ideas. The more you learn, the more you understand. And even if we...
Afilu kolonu chachamim, kolonu nevonim, as we say in the Haggadah, even if we're all wise and professors.
Absolutely. I mean, you just have to think about Simchat Torah, how we celebrate that. We finish learning the Torah, and what do? We go straight on enthusiastically and go straight back into Bereshis. And what do? We hold the Sefer Torah with love and with passion and excitement. Can you imagine an English professor holding his books?
Not at all.
Not at all. So I think it's the idea of actually feeling the love and the passion, and to know how many Torah scholars spend their whole lives dedicated to learning and relearning and delving and feeling the divine wisdom in our precious, precious Torah. So thank you everyone for participating, and let us be blessed with many, many years of increased knowledge and excitement and passion and freshness in our precious Torah.
And just picking up on what Rocha said, when I went to university, that was my first experience in the secular world. I'd always been in this bubble of Jewish schools, Jewish nurseries and yeshiva and Jewish holiday camps. So when I went to university, it was my first experience in the secular world and in the academic secular world in particular. And one day in university, I wanted to see what the library looked like for those that were studying English literature and those type of subjects. And I found the library, and it was all quiet. And I was told to be very quiet when people are looking, and people were searching through books. And the contrast between that and the Beis HaMedrash, where you have people studying and where the Torah is alive,
exciting,
and an excitement and a freshness, and you see people discussing and arguing. It was so beautiful. And I know I mentioned this on the Kabbalat Yom Tov broadcast. One of the most beautiful sites that my father used to take his students. My father was very involved in outreach. He used to take his students at 1:30 a.m., 2 o'clock in the morning, to the various Batei Midrashim, the various synagogues and the various houses of learning around the neighborhood, and seeing parents and children at 1:30 in the morning, 2 a.m., discussing Torah and seeing that, showing them that Torah is not just a book to be studied in a library quiet somewhere. It was alive at 1:30 in the morning, and excitement in the air. Even with little children, we would take them out of their beds to show them how precious our Torah is. So I join Rochelle in wishing everyone.
Chazak.
I join you in wishing everyone that took part in this initiative a huge mazel tov from us all here.
Thank you.
Eitz Chaim hi lamachazikim ba. The Torah is a tree of life to those who cling to it, those who cleave to it. Torah is alive and well, but you've got to go for it. It's not going to come to you. You've got to go after it. And that's exactly what we've done here. חיים היא למה חזיקים בה וסומכיה מיושר. Everyone. עץ חיים היא למה חזיקים בה
We just wanted to say a quick message of thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of this wonderful initiative. As we know, learning Torah is one of the pillars of any Jewish community and one of the pillars of Judaism itself. And we're so grateful for a wonderful opportunity to learn together and be part of the wider communities.
Well, I don't know about learning together. Marco was really my teacher, and my concern now is that he's, I think, potentially going to be a modern-day Nazir. But we both loved it, and we both got a huge amount from it, and also the opportunity to learn together was very enriching for both of us. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Hello, okay. Surprise!
Oh, wow, wonderful. Okay. Flo, you are in.
Hello.
You are live, Flo.
Mazel tov. Well done, everybody. Well done, James. Lovely speech. Thank you for the mention. Very nice.
Flo,
Very proud
Flo.
of you.
We need like a real passing of the baton.
What's happened there?
All right, well, Mazel Tov, James, and we got Flo here.
We got Flo on Facebook.
Oh.
Okay, I'm now going to read out a list of the people, all the participants. Mazel Tov to all of you, and thank you, Marco and Gary, for your message. So we start with Sylvia and Ethan Slagle, Yael and Ethan Genendi, family Annisfeld, Maya Perlman, Nirit Shemtob, Madeline Gottlieb, family Dexter, David Yamin Joseph, Lawrence Sugarman, family Whitkin, Louis and Simon Pollock, Alexandra Masafi, Julian Taylor, Sarah and Bernard Fromson, Michael Goldstein, family Livingstone, Philippe Katz, Andy Fish, Ian Carno, Michael Norton, Juice Cohen, Madeline Cohen, Irving Gross, Neville Kahn, family Greenwood, Anthony Wise, family Kaufman, Andy, Isaac, Joel, Rosie, Mimi and Aviva, Marcus Sperber, David Zisser, Clive Friedman, David Felder, family Daigle, family Whitkin, Philip Stein, Martin Kay, Simon Johnson, family Kaplan, David Liu, Keith Barnett, Stephen Nakin, Boris Benari, Fuad Yamin Joseph, Morris Abramov, Miles Hertz, James Kaufman, Eddie Karamzada, Richard Praise, Rabbi and Rabbinette Friedman, Millie, Joey, Jamiana and Ella Bracha, family Kurland, Jonathan Laufer, Gary and Marco Lawrence, Chazan Avrami and Rachel Freilich, David Sinclair, Bernard Tobe, Malcolm Green, Jeremy Friedman, Robbie Salem, Dan Lichtenstein, Stephanie Nagus, Andrew Cohen, family Wolfson, Adam Bass, David Galorn, Shimon Cohen, Sophia Cohen, Robbie Kastner, family Davidson, family Melnick, Yitzhak Abba Chazera, Avishag, Avital and Yael, Abba Chazera, Michal Abba Chazera, Judith and Ben Tobin, Andrew Friedman, Alan Fox, Jodie Franks, Julian Liu, Michelle Ellis, and I can't forget Ephraim, myself, and our children, Sviki, Chani, and Abigail, who learnt as well. So mazel tov to everyone.
Thank you, Malky. That was very well read. And you might think, oh, what a long list of names after listening to all these names. But you know what? Each name is so precious. Like, if you're counting your diamond, you're counting your money, you're not going to get bored of it, are you? Like, oh, another pound, another 1,000 that I've got to count here. It's a pleasure. It's nachas to count your earnings. So when we read it, when Malky read out this list of names, each name is a precious jewel, a precious gem, members of our community who took part in the learning of the Torah. And we see this also in this week's parsha, Parshas Nosai, the longest parsha in the entire Tanakh, entire Torah, rather, right? Why is it so long? Because there are 12 tribes, each tribe brought their own offering, yet the Torah repeats the same set of 6 verses 12 times. So it's 72 verses just on the offerings, because when it comes to service of God, each offering, each person who connects with Hashem, it's precious. So that long list, very, very long list, is precious. This is the unbelievable commitment that members of our community have made. And those who haven't joined, it's never too late. You can always open the book, because no one's ever shut the book of Jewish learning and said, I've done it all, because it's a bottomless pit of wisdom and knowledge. Let's all make the most of it. And that's it from us. It's good night from me, and it's good night from her. Good night from the Friedmans and the Freilichs. Thank you again to Edward Howard, who's humbly sitting in the background, making sure everything is running smoothly. So thank you again, Edward, and to all the office staff who have ensured the smooth running of this evening. And I wish you all good night. Keep learning, keep steiging. Kol hakavod to you all. All the best.